My favourite story to tell, though, is her second one, the most recent one.
Yeah.
She said, you should listen to this. And I said, okay, cool. I'll just do it. I was coming back from the Bathurst 1000 with my mate.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll put it on in the car. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I'm in
Oh,
the car with
your
my
mate.
No, at no point did I think, this is like a bad idea. And I'm like halfway through it and Mum's like talking about like how she raised me and like stories when I was a little kid and stuff I used to do. I'm like, this is a bit awkward. It's just like, yeah.
No, that's actually good, man.
It was funny.
What was your mate saying?
Oh, he just found it funny.
Does he know your mum?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch podcast. It's amazing to have you along with us, and I've got some amazing people along here with me, including the most often appearancer. Why would you drink water? I'm about to talk to you.
You had all the time before we
yeah,
started.
I know.
Yeah.
It was a big mistake, yeah.
Wearing a cool Japan kit.
Do we know how many I've been on?
I think, isn't this like 6 or something like
that's
that?
gotta be
I've
more than
sometimes
that.
heard your voice in the background.
Yeah,
like
that's happened
did
a
we
bit.
count those as well?
No,
Cameo
they're
appearances,
like
cameos
0.1. They're not
Point
that
one.
high. Like, I
He's
think I
on
said
there-
like a couple words.
He's on there for 33.333%. Given that one. Yes, a nice Japan kit, change
Thank
kit.
you.
You just told us before that you're going to Japan.
I am going
in
to
a
Japan.
year and a half's
In a year.
time.
And
I
it's
can't
also
believe-
it's on camera now, so it's
Oh, you
like
have
even
to
more
go.
gonna
Yeah,
happen. I
I
have
can't
to
believe
go
the
now.
plans are already in place.
We'll have to do
yeah.
a podcast with you when you're in Japan.
Just over like a Zoom call or something.
Yeah, over the Zoom.
I'll be at Mount Fuji.
Oh, that would be
top.
pretty
Oh, that
good.
would be cool.
Fuji in the background. Mount Fuji in the background. Yeah, I said I'd go up, but I didn't go up. Just welcome, Hudson.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you on here. You're on here because the two of the OG3, they're out on schoolies.
Schoolies.
They are on schoolies.
Even when we're recording this will
Yes.
come out a
Yeah.
fair bit after when people are on schoolies. So we'll get some people on who want to talk about
would be
schoolies.
good. Yeah.
We've heard about your schoolies, but I should introduce our guest, Luka.
Hello.
Hello, Luka.
Yes.
Second time you've been on.
Yeah, technically I was on with my mother. I probably had
Technically.
like 10 words. Oh, look, that's harsh. I
20.
she'd go, oh, this happened when you were 4 years old. Do you remember? No.
No.
Cool, all right.
Just single word answers. No, Mum,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, welcome. We're gonna have a proper episode with
Yes,
you
thank
today.
you.
School. Yeah. What was your schoolies?
Schoolies, we went to this random retreat down the coast. I can't remember what it was called. It was like its own community. You went through off the beaten track, and it took us ages to get down there. And because we didn't know where we were going, they've just taken us down this bush road. Like, where are we? Like and then, originally we went apple picking in the morning.
Oh, how
Went to
exciting!
dark. We're like, this is wild.
This is slave labour.
Yeah. That was fun. And then, we just were going down. I'm like, where are we? And then there was this nice spot. But my favourite memory from it was my English teacher was on her honeymoon at one of the other cabins.
Nice.
And
Hello, Miss.
I've walked past in board shorts, no shirt on, towel around with like this floaty inflatable thing around me. And I've gone, oh, yep. This is really awkward because I knew she'd just got married. And I was like,
Oh, so
Yeah.
good to see you, Miss.
yeah.
On your honeymoon too.
Yeah.
So good.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. That was that. Yeah. And that was a week. That was a bit of a blur. The other favourite memory from that was we just randomly decided to go down to the beach at like 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
On the last night.
Schoolie vibes. That's what you do, isn't it?
It was vibe. And then Ethan, in classic Ethan fashion, was like, all right, everyone in a circle where you tell one nice thing about everyone else. Like, just like classic Ethan vibes.
Classic Crawshaw vibes. Yep.
Very core memory of
Yeah.
mine, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's always nice when people like actually commit to doing that though.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, I didn't know you liked me.
Yeah. Haven't spoken to you, yeah.
That's like staying up late. I didn't go on church schoolies, but I remember it's like your whole day shifted to breakfast time was actually like the usual lunchtime.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Lunchtime was at like 6 o'clock, and then dinner was at like 11 o'clock at night or something like that.
Well, we went to Jamboree and...
Did you control the action, man?
We... Barely. But they we had a talk after we got back from Jamboree, and I just distinctly remember just like focus on the words because I was falling asleep. I'm like, I'm dying because I've just been in Jamboree like the entire day, and there was a talk. I'm like, focus on the words, don't fall asleep, and I'm doing the micro sleeps. Oh, you better finish up quickly because I'm going. I'm going. I can't. No. Yeah. Yeah. The only time I've really ever fallen asleep in a talk was after Jamboree, which I think was valid enough.
Who was doing the talk, Ethan?
I think it was Ethan or Guru. Oh no, Greaves wasn't on. Or it might have been Jared actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about it. Yeah.
There you go. That's interesting. Well, I'd like to say, as we've said before, it is your proper full episode, but I'd like to say Luka's for the table. I don't know if that term is, you've heard of that term before, but it's like, when you're at dinner and you're like, oh, I'll order this, and then I'll order this for the table.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I think Luka's for the table for everyone to enjoy today.
Yes.
I'm going to use that more often.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. It's on one of my favourite comedy podcasts. They're like, he's for the table. It also can be like interpreted as like, I want more food, but I'll say, oh, I'm ordering this for the table. And like, I'm getting a few.
I like that. You got a double use there.
Yeah, exactly. So order some onion rings for the table. And it's really just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll say Luka's for the table. Maybe that's for the table is the title of the podcast.
I like
For the table.
Something that usually gets ordered for the table is chips.
Yes.
How do you like to have your hot chips?
Chicken salt all the way.
Boo. Oh,
Yeah.
that's your mum too.
Yeah, no.
Boo.
Brought up on chicken salt, although famously my father despises any salt.
Any salt, right?
Any salt on chips. And it's become the great cousins' war. Whenever dad gets hot chips, they're not going to have any chicken salt. So,
Do you have some at home to put on if he doesn't?
Yes,
Okay,
we did.
yeah.
But I will admit, and my father's probably listening to this, a couple of times I've said, sorry, Dad. I said to him, no salt. But I just didn't.
They just put
salt on.
They just put salt on. I said no salt. And I've come home with very doused chicken salt.
I'm just as disappointed as you are.
Yeah, I know. I'm so, a little, I know lying's a sin. Chicken salt.
Dad, I said no salt. He just put salt on it. And I didn't even realise. I just just open it up. There it is. Okay, so chicken salt.
Yeah. Barbecue sauce.
Oh.
Is it? I know Rogue.
That's
all right.
That's a good shout.
Or occasionally, if I'm feeling a bit fancy, a mayo of some sort or aioli.
Oh,
Where do you put the sauce? This is
Not on the chips.
okay.
I'm a dip.
No, you pass.
Person.
Yeah,
I
I think-
can't do on the chips
I think
because
that's- no.
if you don't have anything to grab.
It's a crime.
It's a crime. It's a crime.
It is a
Yeah,
crime.
that's valid.
And it makes it soggy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, not on the.
You've got a dip.
Yeah. Although recently I've been doing the uni loaded fries.
What do they put on
They've
that?
got a Guzman at uni.
Do
It's
they?
just one of the
The Wollongong Uni?
I know UNSW.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Only for the city folks.
I was only at Wollongong for 3 years.
Which one's better then?
It's a good question. Wollongong is a little more laid back in their approach to things.
Okay.
The degree itself is better at UNSW, but it's a lot more intense.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are there are a lot more intense, which is fine.
So they're all intense, are they?
Yeah, it's just
like camping.
That's
Nice. Yeah. You like that one?
classic. It's dying. It's just like Wollongong. You can would often just chat to your mate while in class or whatever. The other thing was I started uni when it was in COVID.
Yes.
So basically everything was online.
Yep.
Which one of my favorite stories from that was I joined the computer science Discord channel. So with everyone that was in computer science, and I befriended people online or whatever. Had no idea who they were, but they were nice people messaging and on voice calls and stuff. And there's this random guy. I went to the Bible group one week. There's this random guy I was chatting to.
Is this on the Discord?
No. A couple of years later,
Okay.
I'm down at uni. I'm going to the Bible group. Random guy I'm talking to. Turns out he's one of my best mates that I just had spoken to for the last 2.5 years and been working with. Had absolutely no idea. And he was like, he turned his Discord and I saw his icon and I went, wait, you're him? And
Whoa,
it was
really?
the weirdest thing. We had absolutely no idea. Yeah, so
Goodness.
shout out to Harry.
Shout out to the hazmat.
Wild.
Very cool.
Wild.
Hang on, so why were you going to Wollongong?
Yeah, so I started my degree at Wollongong.
Oh, what was the degree?
Yeah, so I started
No,
computer science. Computer science at Wollongong.
Yep.
And then I always dreamed as a kid to go to UNSW.
Oh,
So I did it's a little cute. I did a performance when I was in year 7 at UNSW for school. And I went there and was like, this is where I want to go.
What was the
So-
performance?
Yeah.
Oh, like when I was in, band.
Oh,
performance.
band. Okay.
Drums.
Just like a random
You
thing.
play drums?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drummer. Yeah. Not well, but I do play drums. I did that, and then I've kind of always wanted to go there, but the ATAR was like high 80s, early 90s. Never got it. I did well at uni at Wollongong the first couple of years, and my mate Max moved over and got in, and I was like, I've kind of got similar marks. I'll give it a go. Why not? And then I got it, which was sick. But they do trimesters,
Yes.
which has been an interesting shift because it's like usually you have a month off between semesters. You have a week and a half for UNSW, so, which is like fine. It's Crimea River. I understand. I'm like at university, like it's it's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you almost finished that degree now?
Yes, I've got about a year left, give or take, because some things transferred over, some things didn't.
Oh, like
And
credit.
and I also have done it slower now because I didn't want to because I'm with my job, I work a bit more than maybe the average uni student, so I kind of took less subjects on.
And I think Hudson give you a run for your money working.
Yeah,
Just a little bit. Yeah, but he's definitely more locked into uni, so I guess that balances
Well,
Oh,
out.
is he? Oh, you're not.
No, I try to be.
Oh,
It's not.
don't.
I'll send this to your lecturers.
Yeah. Although I realised I'd gotten a little bit lazy when this subject, they only accepted the top 5 marks of this lab, and they're like pretty complex lab assignments. Anyway, I did the first 5 and realised, I got okay marks, so I just didn't do the rest of the term.
Oh, wow. What's a lab? What do you do in a lab?
Oh, well, for this one, it was mobile data networking. So it basically, we just had to sniff. It's called sniffing packets, which sounds bad.
Sniffing
Literally
packets
what
of
it's called. Data. It's a whole thing. I won't go into the details, but yeah, so I told someone I'm sniffing packets for uni, and then I got a very bad look, and I was like, yeah, I should give you context. Yeah.
Why is it called sniffing though?
Well, a packet-
because there's packets of data that
Yeah.
transfer. It goes in packets, doesn't it?
Because between two people, I have an intermediary, and that's my computer sniffing, basically hearing what they're transmitting to each other.
Oh.
It's called sniffing data. It's
I really like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that.
Yeah. What are you going to use it for?
I don't know. I'll find a way. I'm just sniffing packets right now.
Sniffing packets now, man. While you're editing or something.
Yeah, I'm sniffing packets.
Just been sniffing some packets.
Sorry, I just got to get off the game. I'm sniffing packets. I got to go sniff packets.
It sounds like that, those smelling salts.
Yeah.
Things, where people just whoa, and they sniff it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But if that sounds like you're did you say you're listening to their data?
Yeah, so it is. It's well, my dad's really does that for a job, and I went, oh yeah, I'm doing this for you, and you say that's actually illegal, and I was like,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
and I'm like, well, yeah, they're telling us to do that, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, but that's very not okay, and I'm like, well, I mean, I just blame uni at that point,
Yeah, I've got to get the marks, Dad.
Yeah.
Who cares if it's illegal?
yeah,
Yeah,
and they literally encourage you to be in congested spaces for it, so we had to do it in libraries and stuff. It was not great.
That is wild.
And no. It's not-
Really?
Yeah, I know. It was a bit weird, but yeah, that was because the whole thing was I had to make a report, and we were given not long, and we had to get all the data, machine learn all the data, and analyze all of it. So I had to learn machine learning in the space of about a week and a half, which not fun.
Sounds
even though
fun.
I am a
No.
coder, but nope.
Okay. That's difficult.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we'll get into uni life a bit later
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah, I realised we're jumping the gun.
I don't know. They're the best episodes when we go all over the place. I don't know if the listeners care about that or not, or viewers.
I care about it.
Why?
I don't know. It's cool. I think my brain likes.
Oh, you care
jumping
about
around.
it like you. Oh,
Like
okay.
I like when it jumps around.
I thought you like. I care about it like I don't want to do it.
Oh no. I like it.
Okay. Thanks. Luka.
Yes.
Second question: How did you become a Christian?
Yes. That's a hard question to answer. Because, I mean, as we've spoken about, my mother's on here. I grew up in a Christian family.
Can I just make a question? You call them
Yes.
mother and father. Is that like how you
No,
refer to them?
not a. I don't know.
You're
why
like
I
mother,
asked
father.
that.
Anyway, sorry.
Nikki and Cuz.
You call them Nikki and Cuz?
No,
Oh,
no, not at all.
I
Not
wish.
at all.
That would be heaps good. Cuz.
You must call him Cuz.
Cuz.
Cuz
It's for the table.
yes.
Yes.
So yes, I grew up in a Christian family. Kind of always known God was there. Mum spoke about a story in her podcast how I was like 4 years old coming home from preschool, and she goes, "Are you Jesus' friend?" And I went, "Yeah." Okay, cool.
That's the right answer.
Yeah,
isn't
so
it?
that's probably the first time really I ever said I was a Christian, but I also have no memory of that. Probably my memories of church back when I was younger. It's just like Sunday school and learning all the stuff about like random stories. I remember in Sunday school we did this thing where the 12 tribes and
Of Israel.
Yeah, of Israel, and I was specifically. We all had like headbands, like Survivor style,
like you were in that tribe.
yeah. And every week for like 2 terms, you always had to wear your tribe hat, and you were put into groups and stuff.
Do you know what tribe you're in?
I think I was in. It was the red one.
The red one.
Reuben, maybe. No, hang on, I'm getting confused. I can't remember. But yeah, I remember that, and there's like all the songs you used to sing, that sort of stuff. That's all kind of gets with you. I think it's nothing a special testimony, but it's good now going back and seeing these stories you vaguely remember as a kid and realizing stuff that you maybe not have picked up. Like I recently did, we'll talk about later, but I did my first youth talk.
Yep.
And it was on Noah's Ark. And I was reading it and I was like, completely forgot that everyone died in that story. And I just
because of the flood.
yeah. And you don't really hear that. And they kind of skip over that part in Sunday school. And I was reading, I'm like, wow, this is actually really intense. My brain did not I just thought it was a nice story about a boat.
It's just like
and some animals. You don't really.
that's just your memory of it.
Yeah. And I think that's been super interesting going back and seeing that context. I don't know. I think it's nice learning the Bible now with that stuff that I know from back then. I think it's really good. I think I'd find it hard, really hard to understand the Bible in a broader context without that kind of time as a
Without
kid.
growing up with that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And so you're more mature in your faith. So therefore you're connecting
Yeah,
to lots of
exactly.
things.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any moment where you knew that you're a Christian? Some people we say especially from Christian families, they're like, oh, I had to make a decision here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I do actually believe this.
I think there was a couple of moments. One I do distinctly remember was, so I was at another church when we were real young, and then we moved over to Solly's. Well, my first memory of Solly's was my mate Finn. You know Finn. I played soccer with him, and he was at Soul Revival before I was. And I used to have sleepovers with him, and we used to play Minecraft or whatever, as little 12-year-olds did. So I was 12 about around then, year 6 or whatever.
Okay.
And
this is a non-judgmental space.
No, yes. And he would go to church on Saturday night when I would have the sleepover with him. So I would go to Solly's. I have no idea that, years later I would be going to Soul Revival, but I'd just be going to church with him. Yeah. I remember the only things I remember is obviously the factory, but like the little game machine that's in the corner. We used to play that. It was there. It goes about as far as my memory of when I was there when I was younger. But that was my first thing at Solly's, and then about 4 years later, our family decides to move over. And around that time, a mate of mine from my old church passed away with brain cancer, which was really hard because we were kind of in that changing of church around that time as well, which was hard. So that was really hard for my faith. I think because I didn't really understand the whole thing about it. Like I think it was kind of my first experience of loss, and he was only a couple of years older than me. So yeah, that was really hard. And then we kind of moved over, and then we started Sunday morning. When I think this was about 2016, 2017. Started Sunday morning. Got to know Fox. Riley Fox was the first person I really knew at Soul Revival.
Still trying to get him on the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
And Anna Eliard as well. Were kind of the two people that befriended me. They went, you should go to youth. I was like, I have my youth group in my old church. I don't know. I was kind of ahhing about it. All right, I'll give it a go. This is leading up to our big cruise ship, by the way.
That's all right. Keep going.
And I went to Soul Revival Youth, and the first night I went was an ecclesia night.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. And I just remember walking in and being like, whoa. And I remember Ethan. I have a distinct memory of Ethan just going completely ballistic, dancing like Peter Garrett. And just like having the best time in the world. Yeah. And I remember going, this guy does not care what anyone thinks of him. And I remember that being a really cool thing because I was like this anxious little 13, 14-year-old kid that like was worried about what anyone thought of him. And I think that was really cool. Even at the start of me being at Soul Revival, seeing kind of the shift. So yeah, How About Christian, a couple of years later, I went to Kick.
Yep.
And that was really cool. So I think, with the youth group. And they had like a moment where people can, be Christian. They invited people to be Christians and commit or recommit to your faith. And it was like this whole thing about you walk out the back. I think they still do it. And they give you a Bible, whatever.
Give you a beating.
Yeah. And I didn't do that. I have a distinct memory of not wanting to do that. But I just said to myself, this is actually something I want to do.
Right.
And that was like basically the moment where I was like, I want this.
This is it.
Yeah. So I think that was a very distinct moment.
How old were you then?
I think it was year 10.
Okay.
So kind of like that mid high school-ish. And I think, that was really cool because wasn't sure about my faith for a while around then.
Why do you say that though?
I think changing church, like the whole church, changing churches thing, just like the whole new context.
Yep.
You're hearing different people, show you the word. I think that...
And you'd grown up somewhere different.
Exactly. So, but yeah, it's, Solly's is awesome. Like I'm very Christian there. But yeah, I think that's like how, that night was really cool because I kind of sat there. At one point, I kind of just sat there staring into space. And at one point, I think it was like Dan came up to me and was like, you okay? I was just probably just like staring into space or whatever. And he's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm just added. But yeah, so I think that was kind of the moment where I was like, yeah, this is something I want. I think also Kick was really cool because sometimes as Christians, we can kind of think we're in our own bubble of other Christians and you might only know like a few within your church or whatever, right? Like, only know your church is like the Christians that are there. But I think being at Kick and there being thousands of other like Christians my age, I think was really cool. So like, oh yeah, that's like, you're not like the only person in the Shire or the Sydney or the world that is a Christian. And I think that was like a cool, like physical, you kind of, you know that, but you don't physically see that. I think that was definitely an eye-opener, which kind of helped with that.
Does that mean that you felt like you were a bit isolated then? Like, and that kind of affected why you're wondering whether you were going to be a Christian or
Yeah,
not?
I think like, yeah, I guess so. I think also it kind of coincided with, so with high school, I would go to lunchtime group, and from like year 7, the lunchtime group was thriving, right? It was, this guy came in and was doing it. It was the best thing ever.
This is Engadine High?
Engadine High, yeah. And then kind of started to dwindle. And then around this time was when it was really dwindling. So I kind of started to see, you know, Christianity is kind of this dwindling thing. Not that like I actually believed that. It was just kind of the things I was seeing is everyone's leaving. Right? I've moved churches, you know.
Yeah.
My group of Christians isn't as firm. The other thing was with my Christian group, there was a lot of around that time, year 10, year 11, there was a lot of different personalities in the group, and maybe different denominations in the group, which caused a lot of some people used that time to argue about different things.
Oh, like theological
Yeah,
stuff.
and it wasn't that helpful.
Yeah.
I think I found that really hard as well,
You're
because
like, we're meant to be hanging out.
you went to hang out and you're having yelling matches about something in 3 John. It's
I
like,
was going to ask you, what are they arguing about?
so just like people didn't interpret this as the way that they interpret it, and somehow thought that's like really
Like heretical.
This kid this year 7 kid who's never heard Christianity before has come along because he thought it was cool, and you're just yelling at each other. That was really hard.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, because the other thing was the guy who ran it had left.
Yep.
And they didn't have anyone to run anymore. So kind of in that late high school, it kind of became led by us seniors. So I was one of the people that did it. There's a few others. And that, having that happen, as well as moving churches, I think a lot was changing.
Yeah.
In that time. So I think, becoming a Christian again in that time was really helpful, because it meant that having that moment at Kick was really helpful, because then I could reshape my thinking about stuff that was happening at lunchtime group, and I can kind of be, instead of struggling with my own faith, I can be the one that kind of is firm when all other people are.
Sick.
So I think that was really helpful.
Yeah. So you've gone through all this change, and then you're like, do I really believe this? And then you went to Kick and you're like, oh yes, I do.
I do, yeah.
And that's the biggest change that you're saying is like, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think, it definitely, I think like sometimes going through some adversity can actually like be quite a helpful thing with context.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped, because, it goes from seeing Christianity as something people just arguing about each other about stupid things to like.
You kept saying 3 John. Is that what that was?
No, I want
to know what they were arguing about in 3 John.
Well, no, but it's just
I'll
like.
have a look. Wait.
Yeah. There was one that was like, there's something in the Old Testament where they're running down a river or something, and it become like
Exodus?
Well, that's true. I can't remember. It was the most menial verse. I'm not trashing anyone here, but like it became this fighting over like some people in the Old Testament ran down a road. Like it was just the stupidest thing.
Yeah, right.
And it just like for some reason someone took that as very deep. And then someone's like, that's not that. And it's just, I just did not enjoy that day. Anyway, like, I think, I'm not saying that theological arguments are bad.
Yeah.
But I definitely, after that, found out time and a place is a very key thing. And especially going through that, I'm very key on time and a place now. And I'm very aware of, if I do like want to have discussions like that with people, being aware of who's around, what's happening, who I'm talking to, that sort of stuff. So if anything, it helped me understand different denominations, how people think, read the Bible. So yes, I have learnt from that. So it wasn't totally a failure, but yeah, it's good.
Wasn't really helping you with your faith at the time.
No, exactly. But yeah, and then I went back. I've gone back and worked at Engadine as the tech guy. I walked past. I walked past the lunchtime group, and it was like the whole room was full, and people sitting on the ground and stuff. So that was really cool to go. Actually, all that effort you put in to keep this thing afloat, actually wasn't for nothing.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. So you're leading. You said you had to take over, kind of leading it.
Yeah.
Was that around? Is that the similar time you went to Kick?
Yeah, so it kind of, the Kick thing happened, and then I think it was dwindling, and then the guy who was running it, he had to leave, which is fine. And then we kind of was in this weird stage where we didn't know what was going to happen, and the teacher that would let us in the room, he was a Christian as well, even though he couldn't say it.
Couldn't he?
Yeah, there's something about teachers and...
proselytizing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So... we would, go in there, and we would kind of just, each person each week would just set something up, maybe talk about, I think we did the Bible Project for a while and then speak about it. Came a bit more of a Bible study type vibe. We'd, hang out, get to know people. And then, that kind of happened year 10 to year 12. That was the kind of period of that. And then as I left, actually, the guy who was actually one of my old kids leaders randomly took it over. So as an external person.
Oh, okay.
So it actually worked out perfectly. God works in that way. And I think he's still doing it. But yeah, it was thriving when I walked past the other week.
Really
so
cool.
Yeah.
What did you learn doing that? Like having to lead it, and I'm sure you got together with a couple of the other guys around your age as well, but...
I think just being able to, explain the Bible. It's the first time I've really had to try and explain the Bible. I distinctly remember, because I'm a nerd, I remember doing this verse. I can't remember the verse. It was in Old Testament somewhere, but it mentioned east side. Now, for some reason, I got caught up on this east side, and I realized that in the Bible, if someone's going east, it usually means danger. Or it often meant danger, evidently. I don't know if that was an actual thing, but then I got them all to read random verses, and they all mentioned going east and going to danger, and they were like, whoa, this is super cool, because they're just all kids and whatever, it's just the best. I distinctly remember that was one that I had a lot of fun with. But stuff like that, being able to explain the Bible is not necessarily a thing that is easy, because especially I'm quite a mathematical brain, and coding and logic and yes and no is how my brain works. Something is wrong and something's correct. And explaining in words has never really been my strong point. So I found that, I had to learn kind of how to articulate myself. My mother will probably also agree that I'm not the best at articulating myself as well. So I think that was something I learned that's been helpful ever since.
Yeah, cool. And obviously just helps you to make sure you pay attention when you're reading the Bible.
Well, yeah,
stuff.
exactly right. Yeah.
It's interesting, you get forced in those situations and you're like, oh, geez, I better make sure I know.
Yeah, I know.
You were saying before, the story of Noah.
Yeah. It's super interesting seeing, like I'm not the best at necessarily getting abstract concepts. If it's not 100% correct, my brain can sometimes fry. So I think learning how to read the Bible, that was kind of the genesis of me learning how to read the Bible.
Yeah.
I think would be,
Yeah.
and properly, which I think is quite cool, yeah.
Do you want to just fix the microphone so it's closer to your mouth?
Yep, sorry.
Hudson, while he does that, Hudson, do you have any questions? I've been hogging the questions.
Yeah, you have been hogging the questions.
I'm sorry.
Thank
you for forgiving me. I didn't even say sorry. You gave me, so thank you.
So I think you're saying that you like led the group through high school from like when year 9, year 10?
Yeah, I think that year 10 was probably when I did,
that's like a lot different to what I had, because we had a group maybe in year 7, which I never went to, and then maybe before COVID or something, they like fizzled out. It was external as well.
Yep.
And then after that, I don't think we had anything. So how do you think that, like, how did that go, like being a Christian group in school?
Yeah, I think, that's a good question.
Is this like being publicly Christian? Is that what you mean? Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I was I never really hid the fact that I was Christian. So everyone kind of knew me as the Christian kid, which ended up being like fine. All my mates were like, oh yeah, he's the Christian. Like, and I actually, one of my, the other thing that helped was one of my closest mates in high school was also a Christian. And I think having that, hearing a lot of people's other stories and like being the only Christian New Year or something like that wasn't ever really my experience, which I think I'm very lucky to have that, where, you know, him and I used to go to the Christian group together, and he was kind of my Christian mate, but he was at school, and I think that link between the two where I was never just the Christian at church. Like, I kind of was doing stuff at school, and having the people around me that were Christian, along with the non-Christian mates as well, I think having both of that was really helpful in kind of not just being the weird Christian kid.
Like on your own.
Yeah, I think that's kind of,
Yeah, so it's like, what day was the Christian group on?
It was Thursdays.
So it's like a Thursday, and you're like, oh yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah,
Rather than, oh, should I go? Like,
Exactly.
what are people going to say? Like, what are mates?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because that was like, we had chip lunch on Fridays at Guy Mere, but it was it could become so big and was so public that it was like kind of okay to go over there sometimes. I remember inviting one of my mates. Well, we'll say his mate, but he was Egyptian.
Oh yeah.
And so he's like Coptic Orthodox.
Oh yeah.
So he came and he was like, it was some people would know Tim Baldwin. He was doing the talk, and he says something. He's like, "That's not right." Like, he's just like fully trashed him in front of everyone.
Yes.
I'm like, I think it is, man. Like, I think he's read the Bible.
Yeah.
He also goes to Bible college. So I think he did at some point.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, yeah, he did go to Bible college. But I wanted to rewind a little bit. You said that like 13, 14, you're like an anxious little kid.
Yeah.
Why was that, and then how has that changed?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I'd kind of always been a little bit anxious. It's kind of how like I was as a little kid.
Yeah.
I remember in kindergarten, like we used to sit. It was at Heathcote Public School, but we used to sit right on the out of bounds line, and all the kids that used to like go over. I was in like kindergarten or whatever. I used to be like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that.
It's just like those rules things.
Yeah. So I think like, I've always kind of been that kid that was anxious, and I think getting my confidence and not being the awkward, anxious kid. A lot of that had to do with being a solie. So I'm not just saying that. Actually, it really did. In youth, you'd see people like, Ethan and Jared and Dan and all that, and just like being very out there and extroverted, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be like that. And so you kind of copy things they do, right? And you kind of fake it till you make it. And what I found is I just end up getting confidence in talking to people. Like I really sometimes really struggled with, being able to meet new people, right? That was a big thing I struggled with. Actually, one of my favorite stories about Solly's youth was one of my best mates now, Max. Max said this at youth group the other day. So Max's father did car reviews with my mother.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And
they're still on YouTube.
Yeah, they're still on YouTube. Yeah. Anyway, Max was going to youth group that night, and Mum went, "Oh, you should introduce, that's Peter's son. You should introduce yourself." And because they also went to school together, and I went, "Oh, okay." And I remember this is back when I was a little bit more awkward. I went, saw Max was over in the car park. I went, all right, I'll go up to him. Walk up. I go, oh, hey, our parents know each other.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And Max is like, oh, okay. Because he was a little bit awkward back then as well. I think he's safe to say. He wouldn't hate me for saying that. So he's like, oh, okay. And we're best mates ever since.
Hi,
so,
our parents know each other.
Yep.
Very good.
Literally. So I think learning how to, probably introduce myself to people, and which has actually been super helpful because I obviously work in IT at a school where I'm talking to people and new people every single day. I don't think I'd be able to do that job if it wasn't for Solly's, and it's a wild thing to say, but what I learnt about just socially and being in an environment with different people that I don't already know, I think it's just incredible. But yeah, I think that's like that. Yeah, that would be kind of that.
So is that being more comfortable with yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
I think like knowing that if I'm in a group of people I don't know, I won't just sit there and not say a thing in what, like, not even anxious about anything, but just like, if I was in a group of new people, I would wait till someone says like hello to me before I'd actually like say anything, right? I don't do that anymore. I'm very like, oh yeah, hello, blah, blah, blah. Which often it's helped with like uni assignments where I'm not trashing people who do computer science, but there are a lot of people who don't know how to talk to people in the course. I'm not trashing people who do computer science, but that's kind of the reality of it.
No, you're just trashing people with not great social skills.
Well, yes, yeah. So I'm often the person like introducing everyone to everyone. Oh, hello.
Oh, that's
like,
cool.
Yeah. So I think.
Is this like a group assignment vibe? Oh,
yeah.
Group assignments, bro.
Oh, they're the worst. They're literally the worst.
Yeah.
The worst is when because we're in COVID, it was online. My favorite story of that was there was this one group assignment we did, and because the international students couldn't come to Australia, there was international students international, right?
Right.
So there was this one group I was in, and one of the guys was from Hurstville or whatever. The other guy, I think actually it was a woman. I think she was in Bangladesh, and every time you'd see the Discord, you'd just hear beeping horns as she's tried to speak, and like people yelling as if she's in some mark. I don't know where she was, but every time we had a meeting, I couldn't hear a thing she would say because you would just hear people chatting, people on the street yelling, and it was just like the weirdest experience ever. So stuff like that can be hard as well. But back to the point. Yeah, learning how to talk to people properly was really good for my self-confidence because, like, when you're confident out, you can have more self-confidence.
What came first, though, self-confidence or social skills, do you think?
It's a very interesting question. I reckon I think the self-confidence to have good social skills, if that kind of I had the confidence because the people around me were being extroverted and all that sort of stuff. it gave me the confidence to do the same. You know what I mean? Like, because I think deep down, like I could have been a loud kid, like, but I was like, I didn't want to embarrass myself or whatever. Having the confidence to do that because other people were, you know, moshing at an ecclesia, and having the confidence to do that, and not just standing in the corner feeling like everyone hates you.
Is it also like something to do with like just feeling love for who you are rather than like you having to be something else?
Yeah,
because that was a massive thing with me becoming a Christian.
100%.
Sure. Yeah.
I think learning to be yourself is actually like, because if God wanted us to be the same person, he would have made us all the same type of person. I think the biggest gift God's given us is uniqueness. And
I like that.
I think learning how to be yourself is probably one of the most liberating things in the world, especially, you know, for me, young kid. Suddenly I had a ton of friends when I was myself and not trying to be someone else. I think you talk about what would be something, that's a question you talk about later. What would you tell your younger self? I think that would be what it is. And it's a very cliche one, but be yourself, because when you're like trying to cater yourself to be someone else, you don't actually know what that person is. You're just trying to like be something, right?
Oh, I see. So you don't truly know.
Yeah.
You're trying to copy them in a sense and fit in, but you don't truly know what they actually are because they're probably doing a similar thing in another way though.
Yeah. So then also like getting the confidence to, you know, be loud and be myself and be kind of extrovert or whatever. Seeing that and then linking that with trying to be more myself. I think those two married each other really well around that time. I think that was an awesome thing. And that also links with like having the confidence to go, yeah, I'm a Christian, like in myself and believe that. I think it's really, really helpful.
That's some of the things that you've like kind of said already though, because in your teenage years, you're growing up trying to understand what your identity is. And you'd grown up like you said when you're in kindergarten, like, you know, don't go over the line. You can't go over the line. But going on like some of the things you've told us about high school and stuff and then leading up to that moment at Kick was like, oh no, my identity is in Christ. Yeah. And then like you're saying, coming to Soul Revival at a similar time and leading that Christian lunchtime group, like there's all these things that God used in your life to actually go, no, you are mine, and also you don't have to pretend to be anyone else. Yeah. And I love it how you said that one of our greatest gifts we get from God is like that we're all unique, like completely unique.
I think it's, I truly think, like my favorite thing is like the people who cook dinners on a Saturday night. I'm glad that's someone else's gift because I can't cook, and I am so grateful to the people that cook the dinners and like.
Surely you could code a robot to do that.
Probably, yeah.
Keep going.
But yeah, like stuff like the hospitality team. Like I could never. I'm not a good cook. I mean, I'm not too bad, but like to cook for 500 people, like that is my worst nightmare. But yeah, so like I think embracing that uniqueness and going, yeah, that's part of being the human that God created. I think's a super liberating thing. I don't know. I think that's very cool.
I love that liberation of like Jesus dying on the cross is actually liberates us to be who we are and then live for Him. That's I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Actually, can I ask you one more question though? Like, because we're talking about all this, like everyone has it, but like this is your particular. This is for the table. For the like struggle with identity, and it always happens. Like especially when you're like a teenager, you kind of start slowly detaching yourself from your parents and you're growing up and stuff. You mentioned that your friend that died from brain cancer. Can you, if you feel comfortable, can you tell us more about that and why that kind of like really It's kind of kicked this off.
Yeah, yeah. I think so that's Stephen Barry. His father was one of the ministers at Janelli where I was.
Yeah.
And he was one of the nicest people you've ever met in your life. Like, genuinely, I've never met a person who so he was going through cancer, right? And you'd ask him, oh, how are you doing? He would talk about each of his 5 siblings before he'd talk about himself, and his parents before he'd talk about himself. And you'd have to ask him again, how are you doing? Like,
no, you.
Yeah, literally, we're asking about you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I struggled with the whole thing of why the nice person, why is he going through that? And, you know, why are the mean people in high school, why are they fine, and why is he going through that? I think that was, in my brain, something I found really hard back then.
Like a question about suffering.
Yeah, I think the question of suffering, because I was just like, I've never experienced death before, and just this guy that's almost my age. I think that was just like, whoa, this is super, super weird. And also seeing how it affected other people. So his younger brother was in my year, and I was really close with him, and seeing how it affected him. And I think that was hard, because I was just like, you know, Nathan's the nicest kid in the world. I think that was probably the hardest bit. And then once I kind of realized thought through that, it actually made me a stronger Christian, I'd say. Because once you put that to God and to Jesus, you again, talk about the liberation. You can we talk about putting your anxieties onto God, and you pray about it, that sort of stuff. And I think that was really good, because once you have the knowledge to put your problems to God, I think obviously prayer. I think that was the big thing. Around that time, I think prayer was a big.
What was also your answer to the kind of suffering question about why him?
Yeah,
where did you land on that?
I reckon it was. I mean, I spoke to my youth leader back at Janelli about it.
Yeah,
and he was kind of like, well, I actually can't remember what he said, to be honest with you.
It's all right, summarise.
But I think going through the whole God is a just God, and that kind of going down that route, as in God's a loving God. And I think also the idea that he was in heaven also really helped, because
after he passed away.
Yeah. I think seeing that he wasn't great and going, actually, he's living it up in heaven, and in 60 years I'll be there as well, living it up with him. I think going through that, I think that was also a big thing of going, actually, he is in a better place, and that's probably the standard thing to say. But Jesus loved him. He's accepted. His big thing was he loved Romans 8. So that's become my...
Not a bad chapter.
Which has become my favourite chapter of the Bible. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Which was really awesome, because youth camp this year, they did Romans 8, and it was just really cool, because I went to my youth camp at Janelli. He'd passed away a week before, or 2 weeks before, around the same time as our youth camp happened. And I just remember going whoa, this really cool. It actually ended up being quite a nice going. It could, because at that camp, we would have private time where you'd sit and read the Bible, and I read Romans 8 like 3 times on that camp.
Yeah.
So then going to the 6 years later, doing Romans 8 at a church camp was very cool.
Yeah. What's the kind of thing that hits you for Romans 8?
I think just like...
Because I think Hudson's looking at it right now.
Yeah, because I feel like I remember a verse from it, but I'm trying to find it.
Okay, go.
I think just like the assurance of the whole thing, and like I can't even remember it. What was it? Gosh, my memory of verses is absolutely horrific. I think it's 36 to 39 from memory. Were really good, and I can't remember the... I also don't have my phone on me.
That's all right. 8:36. Hang on.
I think that's...
As it is written, for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth or anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord.
So reading that after what had happened was really cool, because you've had this thing that I've never experienced before, and then I'm reading this going, actually this, or the whole like, neither of this matters in the eyes of the Lord. Just like, oh, okay.
And nothing can separate you from him either. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that was really helpful. And this so that was also the last book, last chapter he had read before he passed from memory.
Really?
Yeah. So,
wow.
That was quite a big reading that at that camp and forward on. That was a big thing. I think that kind of shaped my whole view of the entire thing. So that what the answer to suffering was, kind of going through that.
Like no matter how bad the suffering is, nothing can separate us from him. Yeah,
exactly. I think that was quite. And I think like going through that and understanding made me have to understand God and Jesus more, which helped me today. Like really, I think from being a kid where you kind of know God exists for your entire life, right? He's just kind of, I don't remember a time in my life where I haven't at least thought God exists, right? Going through this forced me to actually think deeper than, Jesus is there, God's there. I think that really helped me kind of mature as a Christian.
Yeah. I love that, because as I was asking you, like, growing up in a Christian family, what are those moments where you knew that you did actually believe it rather than just knowing the answers?
Well, I think it's kind of a funny story about that. One of the moments where I was like, wow, I just did this out of instinct was I think it's called Life Ready Camp for school. And it's basically sex camp, right? For lack of a better...
Hang on.
Yeah. Which, okay, I should word that better.
I was not ready for that.
It's basically like you're now about to go in year 12. You need to know about all this. So we
You mean like
camp.
sex education?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They do a whole camp for that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
So we had a camp for that. And one of the ones was a yes or no on the room. Split the room, basically, right? Yes on one wall, no on the other.
And you had to go to one side?
You had to go to one room, one side. And we're going through it, and the teacher goes, is it okay for young people to experience with sex?
Yeah.
And the entire room went to yes. And I went to no. Whoa. Not even thinking. And I went, crap, this is... Whoa.
Luka, you loser.
Did they do a discussion bit after, like, explain your argument?
She goes to me first, goes to the no, and I've gone,
wow.
And I remember thinking, I remember having this really moment, I'm like, this is like such a cool but weird moment. And I was like,
that was a hardcore moment.
And she's like, what do you think? And I think I said something like,
yeah, what did you
I
say?
think you should get married before you have. So like I just went, I went very blunt.
Yeah,
And and she went, oh, cool. Like she didn't know what to say to that.
Yeah, that's not what this camp's about.
No, literally. And I was like, I don't
You're
know
not ready for life.
yeah, fully. And I was just like, that was like such a weird moment. It was one of those moments where you don't realize what was happening until the second it happens, and you go, "Oh no, okay, yeah, this is
literally the only one."
Yeah, yeah, out of a room of 50 people.
Wow.
And that was certainly interesting.
I had a similar thing like that, like at some camp we went. It wasn't sex camp as you described it, but it was like, I don't know, it's like year 11 or 12. And there was this thing of like calling people that went to like chip lunch and stuff like that, churchies. And I just remember it was really interesting. And it's not as embarrassing or as confronting as what yours was. But it was like, you were playing a game where everyone sat in a circle, and he's like, someone had to say, if you're this, you have to like change. I think you had to change seats with someone else. Oh. And they're like, if you're a church, you have to do it. And I just ended up, and I had this moment where I was like, am I going to do this? Yeah. And then I did it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as exposing as your situation. But it's funny that kind of happens. Do you have anything like that?
I don't think I've ever had, like, I mean,
you're not ready for life, though.
No, I was not ready for life. I feel a bit betrayed by my school that I wasn't put through that program. But I don't think I've ever like really been singled out. I think because my group of friends, because they went to a different school, so getting introduced to a bunch of new people, I was just introduced as a Christian. And since
this is Christian.
So literally since they put it as like, oh, this is just who he is, like whatever, like we don't care. Like I was never really single. I mean, I'm singled out at parties, I guess, because I'm not drinking usually or something. So, so I guess, but I don't think I've ever once felt embarrassed, and it's not like oh my gosh, you suck. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's also like, I feel like way better than this. So way better than you right now. So
yeah, that's honestly,
So I haven't had
way better than you
at school, because at school I think I was a lot more on the radar. I didn't have that school, the chip lunch or anything like that. So I think like you said that you were you didn't like tell people you're a Christian, but I don't think people assumed I was a Christian or something. I think I was just a bit quiet or just didn't really bring it up. So I don't think I was ever specifically singled out for anything like that.
That was in year 12, Luka, when you did that?
Yeah, year 11, year 12, yeah.
What happened afterwards, like with people at school?
Well, I think by then
they kind of knew.
I think people knew, and it was only like a fourth of the grade that were in that room when it happened.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the whole grade.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think much happened from there. It made the whole camp, like the whole camp was just like weird, and I'm like,
that seems like a weird camp.
Yeah, anyway, that's a whole other thing. But
for the whole, how long was it?
3 days.
Oh, that seems like the worst camp ever.
It was just like, it was just going through,
sex education.
But surely you taught it before then, like.
Well, yeah, but like,
is that like a last ditch effort? Like, okay, we got one more year. We gotta tell them everything.
Make sure you know everything.
Yeah, just like
to be ready for life.
But yeah, like I think it was just like, it was one of those moments where you instinctively think something.
Yeah.
Because that's always how my brain has functioned, right? No point did I go, this is going to be awkward. I just went, oh yeah, no, you get married before.
Because it's almost not you're talking about logically and stuff. It's almost a rule.
Yeah.
You're like, no, the rule.
Well, no, I just like, that's how I've always known that.
Yeah.
So I think that was like oh yeah, no, this isn't how that works. Like, I think, and obviously now I know, like, I don't know. I think just like, being instinctively a Christian, I think that was one of those moments. I'm like, I did not even think.
Spirit's there. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
On that bombshell, we might leave it at that for this episode. And next episode, we might find out if you are ready for life.
Yes.
Have been ready for life. And we'll leave it there and finish with the one way, but then we'll come back next week and finish off Luka's story. One way.